IXL section BB.9, complete the square. This IXL is very, very simple. And at first you may not realize what's the point of this IXL. I'm going to show you what the point is, and this little technique called completing the square is something that you're going to use a lot more in problems that are more challenging on the following IXL that I'm going to assign. So it's actually good that this IXL is simple so that you can nail down the technique, and it'll make it that much easier when you get to the more complicated problems in an upcoming IXL. All right. So first, let me show you what you're going to have to do. All right. Let me show you what completing the square is, and then I'll show you what it's for, what it's used for. Okay. So to complete the square, what you're going to put in every single one of these boxes is you're going to take, all right, remember, let me write something up here. Remember that a quadratic expression is written in this form, right? Where A, B, and C are numbers. Okay, you're going to take the B term, the coefficient, you're going to take B, okay? You're going to take this number, and whatever number is there, you're going to divide it by 2 and then square it. Okay, so whatever number B is, you got to divide it by 2 and then square it. And that's the number that you're going to put right here. So for example, right here in our first example, we have negative 14. So I'm going to take negative 14 and divide it by 2 and square it. So that's going to be negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. And negative 7 to the second power is positive 49. That's your answer. Let me do this one right here. All right, so whatever B is, divided by 2 and then square it. B is 30. So 30 divided by 2 and square it. That's going to be 30 divided by 2 is 15. And 15 to the second power is 225. So that's the number that I put right here. Again, the process is divided by 2 and then square it. All right, so let's do it here. B is 14. So I got to do 14 divided by 2, and whatever that gives you, square it. So 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 7 to the second power is 49. Okay, last example, I got 22. Last example on this slide, I got 22. So 22 divided by 2, and then square it. 22 divided by 2 is 11, and 11 to the second power is 121. That's my answer. Okay, now, why am I doing this? What's the point of this? All right, let me show you what the point of this is. I'm going to show you the point of this, but it's going to make even more sense when we get to upcoming IXLs that use completing the square. All right, so the point of this is that when you add this number, it creates a perfect square quadratic. That means that I could factor this, and the answer is going to be a perfect square. All right, so this is what I mean, right? In all of these examples, the leading coefficient, which is A, in all of these examples, the leading coefficient is the number 1. So I just put, like in this one, I just put R and R, and now I need two numbers that when you multiply them, give you positive 49, but when you add them, give you negative 14. Those two numbers are going to be negative 7. Okay, and the way you would write this is like this, simplified. Okay, it's going to work out like this for when you complete the square, it always gives you an answer like this. Now listen, in this IXL, you're not writing this answer. You're only writing this easy answer right here, 49. But I'm just giving you a preview of what it's used for. Okay, because on the upcoming IXL that I'm going to assign, you're going to be solving the quadratic equations using this technique. All right, so by concentrating on just what number goes here, you're going to be able to master it a lot quicker and understand it a lot easier. All right, so like for example, look at this one. If I factor this, okay, it's going to be s plus 15 to the second power, because 15 times 15 is 225. And sorry about that. Let me turn off the sound on my phone. And 15 plus 15 is 30. This one right here, if I factor it, I would end up getting this, m plus 7 to the second power. Because 7 times 7 is 49, and 7 plus 7 is 14. This one down here would be m plus 11 to the second power. because 11 times 11 is 121, and 11 plus 11 is 22. All right, let's do some more examples. All right, these examples are easy, just like the ones on the first page as well. So again, to complete the square, you got to get whatever b is divided by 2 and square it. All right, so in this example, b is negative 24. So negative 24 divided by 2 and square it. Negative 24 divided by 2 is negative 12. And negative 12 to the second power is going to give you 144. Okay, now the next one, sorry, just one second. Okay, so for the next one, again, whatever b is, divided by 2 and square it. So in this example, b is negative 30. So you're going to divide negative 30 by 2 and then square it. Negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15, and negative 15 to the second power is 225. Okay, let me try to speed it up so I can get to the only tricky ones. All right, so right here in this one, we got negative 18. So divided by 2 and square it. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. And negative 9 to the second power is 81. By the way, most of these, you should be doing them mental math. Maybe even all of them. Because they're, actually, yes, I will say you should do all of them mental math. If you know your timetables, you should be able to do them all mental math. All right, so this last one, 20 divided by 2, and then square it. 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 10 to the second power is 100. So that's our answer. And again, let me show you how I would, if I had to factor them, how I could factor these easily. All right, this one would be that. You don't have to do this in this IXL, but I'm just showing, but it is coming up. All right, this one would be this. If you factor it, let me circle it. All right, this one would be that. And the last one would be h plus 10 to the second power. They all give us a perfect square quadratic. A quadratic expression that when you factor it, gives you a perfect square. All right, now let's look at the only tricky ones. Okay, and they're not really anything that difficult. The tricky ones I'm going to do right here, so you should pay attention to these. The tricky ones basically involve a fraction. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. Again, the process is whatever b is divided by 2 and square it, all right? Okay, so look at what b is in this example. B is negative 27, right? So look, negative 27, I got to divide it by 2 and square it. However, negative 27, if you divide it by 2, you're going to get a decimal. It cannot be divided by 2 without having a remainder. So what you should do is the following. Leave it like that. Leave it in fraction form. And just do on the bottom 2 to the second power, which is 4, and on the top 27 to the second power, which is going to give you 729. And that is going to be your answer. You just write here 729 slash 4, like that, and that'll be your answer. 729 over 4. That's how you're going to do all of these. And listen, when you get to these, be careful. Look at the number carefully, because even me, I was in a hurry, and when you're in a hurry, it's easy to get confused and mess it up, because I was messing up because I was not really paying attention and just trying to go fast. Okay, so like look at this one right here. You got negative 17. So again, negative 17 is not divisible by 2 without having a remainder. So just leave it in fraction form. The bottom will be 2 to the second power, which is 4, and the top will be negative 17 to the second power, which is going to give you 289, and that's going to be your answer, 289 over 4. All right, this one right here, you got negative 7, so negative 7 divided by 2 and then square it. All right, but you can't divide it by 2, so instead just leave it like a fraction, and it'll be 49 over 4 when you square the top and the bottom. Okay, this one, if you're paying attention, this is one that's very easy to get confused. And I'll show you how, cause I got this one wrong, okay, because I was in a hurry. What I did that was wrong is I looked at it, and I saw negative 1, and I thought to myself, oh, negative 1 to the second power, positive 1. But that's wrong, because you got to get the -1 and divide it by 2 and square it. So when I write it like this, you should see that now when I square -1/2, I'm going to get on the bottom 4 and on the top +1. Because -1 to the second power is +1 and 2 to the second power is +4. So the answer is 1/4. But again, if you're in a hurry, that's one that you're very likely to mess up, just like I did. Same thing with this one. It's easy to look at that and just think, oh, like for whatever reason, our brains will think that we got to get 5 and square it. But no, that's not what you do. It's -25 divided by 2 and then to the second power. So you cannot divide -25 by 2 without having a remainder. So just leave it as a fraction, leave it in fraction form, and square it. Square the top and the bottom. So on the bottom you're going to get 4, and on the top when you square 25 you're going to get 625. So you're going to have 625/4. And in case anybody is wondering, you would also, when you factor that, you would also get a perfect square. You would get t, if I'm not mistaken, you would get this, -27 over 2 to the second power, which is the same thing I have written right here. I said if I'm not mistaken, let me make sure when I add that. Yeah, that's correct. All right, you would end up getting this. All right, so all of these, even though they have fractions, it also allows you to, it also creates a perfect square quadratic that when you factor it will give you a perfect square. Basically, using all these, like the second half of that binomial would be what it says right here for all of them. So like this one right here would be, if you factored it, it'd be f minus 1/2 to the second power. When you work that out, like if I multiply f minus 1/2 times f minus 1/2, I would get this quadratic expression right here. All right, guys, that's it for this IXL. It's easy. It could be completed very fast. So take advantage, and you're going to need it for the following IXL, which uses the same technique but gets more complicated. All right, so make sure to take advantage and get an easy 100. That's it for this IXL.